today we're very excited to welcome from the Ocala Police Department an impressive leader, incredible human, and a community advocate that gets nothing but rave reviews across all of Marion County, city and county. We have Chief Balken here in the house, and he's here to share some holiday safety strategies to protect yourselves. We're going to learn about him personally and what he does and some of the neat work he's doing within the OPD. So thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure to be on with you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you so much. So we'll get a little bit personal. We always go personal. We talk about retirement planning, so we won't go too heavy on you. Right. This is his first time ever on our show, and we're going to ask him to come back every year, right?
Of course, absolutely.
So you have two kids in their 20s.
Yeah, two grown adults living their dream. You know, both of them are in the medical field. My son is a registered nurse going through anesthesia school, so he'll be hopefully a certified registered nurse anesthetist. Very hard to say. In about 5 months, my daughter's an RN out at West Marion in the operating room, so she stays busy there.
Oh my gosh, she is busy.
Absolutely.
Does she want to stay there? Is she going to move on?
You know, I've asked her that if she's going to continue her education or move up into leadership roles, and she's still trying to figure it out. It's only been a couple of years, so she really wants to get a good foundation in the OR and then stretch her legs a little bit after that.
Very nice. So to our listeners, I've got to tell you, we decided to bring Chief Balken on the show, and I didn't really know who he was a year ago, embarrassing as that sounds. But, you know, when you have the mayor said you're like the best leader he has ever met, and you have other foundations and people just saying that you know how to keep employees, you raise employees, you really build leadership within, and to be like one of the number one leaders out there, I think says a lot. And you spoke a month ago. I saw you and Billy Woods speaking at that event, and that's when I asked him to come on the show. And it was amazing the things that we're talking about keeping people here in Marion County. And how do you do that? Because that is a specialness that is very hard to come across.
Yeah, you know, I think we kind of changed our strategy when I took over about 4 years ago. I think we had spent a lot of time selling the Ocala Police Department as the best police department in the entire world, right? And as much as I love to think that, the bottom line is with the anti-police sentiment that we saw, the defund the police movement that we saw several years ago, it was very difficult for any law enforcement agency, I don't care where you are, anywhere in the country, to either keep or retain quality law enforcement officers. So, you know, we made a move a couple years ago, and I told staff, I said, listen, we run a great organization. We have the support of the community that we serve, which is probably the most important thing that we need, right? You're never going to police your way out of a problem if you don't have the support of the folks that you're serving. Mm-hmm. But two, we live in North Central Florida. We live in Ocala, Marion County, a place that I think is one of the best places in the world to live, right?
Agreed.
We don't fight the rat race, at least of Orlando and those big cities. We've got beautiful outdoors, the springs, the rivers, the forest. It's an incredible place to come and live, work, and play and prosper. And we kind of took that bull by the horns and really started to try to sell not just a great agency that's supported by the community and by their chief and the mayor and the council, but really try to sell the area as well. And we succeeded with flying colors. I talk to my fellow chiefs, my counterparts around the state all the time, and most of them are running a 10 to 20% vacancy rate. We're well above that, meaning that not only are we fully staffed, but we secure overhire positions to account for attrition throughout the year. We never want to be playing catch up because it takes me about 13 months to turn out a new police officer. So we are, I don't want to tell it, this will be our secret, but we're actually hiring two over the overhires that the city manager approved. So yeah, don't tell anybody. But we'll get that pushed through. And we do have retirements coming up. That attrition is going to happen anyway. But we focus on running the organization as if it's a big family, right? We want to support certainly the mental health of our police officers. We know they do a difficult job. They're exposed to some really traumatic things, and we try to focus on that mental health. We know that physical well-being is part of that, so we try to incentivize physical well-being where we're paying them, to even on-duty workout time and things like that, trying to incentivize good health. And then we're really trying trying to grow our ability to focus on their spiritual well-being as well. Not necessarily talking about religion, but we know that spiritual well-being is part of that wholesome three-prong approach to having a healthy employee. And I think our officers see that. And we really try to approach this from a servant leadership perspective throughout our staffing levels. And I think it shows. I think our vacancy rate shows that. I think the support that we get from our community shows that. And they make my job pretty easy every day.
Wow. Well, rave reviews. And we're all jealous.
I don't know about that. But,
it's hard to do that. So you definitely have a specialness there. So besides running the shop over there and creating leaders and value and integrity and number one, spiritual well-being, I would love later to find out how you guys do that. Because I think not a lot of groups do that.
Yeah.
Because there's a little niche or.
You know, we've always had a chaplain program as long as I can remember at the police department. And that kind of waned several years ago, and we're trying to build that back. But, you know, having a chaplain just that walks into your office or jumps in your police car and goes to a critical call and can just talk to you about, you know, kind of where you're at, where your mindset's at. If you're in the mood to talk about religion, you can. If you just want somebody to talk to, or if you just want to sit there and keep quiet and keep your mouth shut, that's fine too. But you got at least somebody there that you know is there to hear your problems, and whether that be from, listen, cops, they have a difficult role to fill. They're not overpaid, right, in the profession. So, you know, they run into problems just like everybody else, whether it's financial issues, marital issues, right, things like that, on the job problems, PTSD, things like that. It's a big issue. So we certainly, I believe that spiritual component is part of mental health and that holistic approach to taking care of our people, and not just our cops, but our dispatchers and our victim witness advocates and our forensic folks. We're up to almost 340, I think, employees now overall, and it's a really big family.
That's incredible. I mean, think about it. Things that people see or they do, or the emotions and the psychology of it all. I think that's incredible. You guys provide that because it's so necessary.
I couldn't agree more.
So kudos to that.
Thank you very much.
So not only is he a bad A and being nice here in the business, but he's a community advocate. So that was something else that circled back. You won an award, like a huge award. This is no kidding award, everyone. It's called the Unsung Hero Award. Like, when I heard about this award, it put me to tears because I didn't even know we had this here until this past year, and the fact that you had gotten it. So can you tell us a little about that award? Yeah,
very honored to have even been nominated for such an award through the Community Foundation, and very blessed. That's certainly not deserving. The mayor speaks very highly of me, and I love him for it. But I try to stay as involved in the community as I possibly can, and I think it's important. I'm not a fan of that old saying, "It takes a village," because I think that removes responsibility from certain people that should be stepping up to the plate, and that's a conversation for another day. But I do believe in participating actively in the success of a community, whether that be, I've got a big soft spot in my heart for our community youth. Right, we know. Yeah, I tell my cops, hey, it's great if you go out and work a case up and you write a great report and you do a great preliminary investigation and that gets approved and sent through to a detective. The detective might spend a week or two working the case, developing leads, doing great interviews and polygraphs and doing all that stuff to make an arrest and bring that case forward to the prosecutors for a great day in court. And that's great. But what I try to remind them of is that's always got to play second fiddle, right, to preventing the crime to begin with. The idea with the youth, at least in my mind, is to try to prevent them from ever coming into contact with law enforcement, at least in an adversarial way, if we possibly can. We want to prevent that. So, when you look at what we've done, and not me, but what we as an agency and our officers have done, everything from our Polar Patrol ice cream truck, right, that goes out and patrols lesser served, underserved communities and tries to engage those kids, not just about giving away a free ice cream cone, right? It's about getting them to come up and engage a police officer, maybe get a book off the truck, because we know that literacy rates have a direct correlation with incarceration rates, right? So we understand how powerful a police officer can be in the community, especially when it's not in an adversarial situation, right? We serve as role models and try to get kids to understand that, there's a lot more out there that this world can offer you outside the projects and domestic violence and drugs and gangs and things like that, and try to open their eyes in a way that maybe their parents or their caretakers have been unable to do. And if we're successful once or twice a year, then I think it's a home run, and more than willing to continue those programs. So, yeah, I think between that and Big Brothers Big Sisters, being involved in that mentorship program there, that's a really long-term investment. You're talking about.
You're a big brother, right?
I am. It's an 18-month stint. I don't call it a stint. It sounds like a jail sentence, but it's a big commitment, right? Yeah. But I do think at times it takes that length of time to really turn the course of somebody's life.
Sure. And, is that like a once a month get together, or?
Yeah. So it depends. There's two different programs. There's a community-based program where you can take your little brother or sister out in the community and do pretty much whatever you want, which is what I do. And then there's a site-based part of the program where it's just maybe a police officer showing up at an elementary school, having lunch with the same kid once a week, right? My little brother has gone. He's been out on my boat. We've been to baseball games with the Devil Rays. We've gone to the Army Recruiter's Office. But no, I think, just all in all, being involved in your community and pushing these great programs that really improve the quality of life, ultimately for all of us, is important, and I think had a lot to do with that award.
Yeah. Well, and also honoring and continuing the legacy of the Graham Foundation and so much more, right?
The Greg Graham Legacy Foundation is near and dear to me as well. Greg Graham was an incredible mentor to me, our former police chief. And for those that maybe don't know, died in a tragic plane crash just over 4 years ago. But his name lives on, and that program supports a lot of different initiatives, things like the amnesty program, for folks that are suffering from addiction, that can walk up to any police officer in the city of Ocala and say, hey, I need help. They can surrender their drugs or their paraphernalia, and they're not going to get arrested for it. We're going to transport them to a treatment facility and try to get them some help. Yeah. So, we look at that as a way to, to save lives and try to, again, help people turn a corner. And I think we've had some great success there. I think it's in the numbers, and I couldn't be more prouder of our folks for some of those accomplishments. It's been great. Do
you feel like our community is getting into a more of a safer realm overall?
Yeah, I do. We'll look at the end of year numbers after January, right, when they come in through the incident-based reporting system through FDLE. But anecdotally, I can tell you violent crime is down. Property crime even is down. We do have a problem with scam-related crimes that originate sometimes in Nigeria, and it makes it very difficult to investigate. But all in all, I started with the Ocala Police Department back in 1994 during the crack cocaine heyday. It was extremely violent out there on the streets of Ocala. It could be. That's changed. I think we've gotten a lot smarter at how we police in general with law enforcement.
Well, we don't mess around either.
We don't mess around. We don't. I'm very unapologetic. Yep. We are carnivore meat-eating cops, and we enjoy taking somebody to jail when they break the law. That's what we get paid to do.
But you also teach them and coach them along the way that that's not how it has to be, which I love about our department.
Again, that's the goal, right? To prevent the crime. But once you commit it, you're fair game, and we're taking you to jail.
Game over.
Game over. But we're developing, growing our real-time crime center right now, expanding that, and that incorporates everything from surveillance cameras to license plate readers, and a lot of technology brought into one pane of glass.
Thank God for that 1% penny.
The penny sales tax.
The penny sales tax.
Sometimes
that'll help with that.
Yeah, that goes a long way, really, truthfully. But what it allows us to do, the officers and the detectives, it allows them to work in our community with a scalpel rather than the chainsaw that I had to carry around back in the 90s. Meaning, when there was a problem, a rash of violence back in the 90s, you formulated an 8-10 officer team, and you sent them out there in the hood, and you stopped as many people as you could. And unfortunately, you caught a lot of bad guys, but you also caught up a lot of good people too that were getting stopped. And, some people would say, I don't call it harassment. There were legal stops, but you had to cast a big net, I guess is what I'm trying to say, to catch the one, small percentage of bad guys that we were really looking for. The way I approach it now, I ask my folks, hey, do you know who the bad guy is? Yeah, Chief, we know who it is. Okay. Do you know what he's driving? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know where his mom lives? Yep. How about his baby mama? You know where she's at? Oh, yeah. Go find him and put him in jail. They are very, very successful at doing that. And with that, I think that ability to work with a scalpel allows us to develop better cases that we present to not only the state attorney, but the assistant U.S. attorney here in town. And they're adopting a tremendous amount of our cases and prosecuting federally. So, you know, if we can get a better bang for the buck or better juice from the squeeze, some of our cases might go federal, some of them might stay local. But we're trying to leverage all of our partnerships. And we work very closely with the U.S. attorney, the state attorney, the FBI. I have a task force officer assigned to them, the Drug Enforcement Administration. We've got a HSI TFO that's part-time, and we're going to further those relationships because, you know, when we have those, I can bring to bear the full weight of the entire federal government if and when I need to.
Yeah,
if that's what you require to remove you from society, then we'll do that. And it's been extremely successful. So, you know, I'll be looking at those crime numbers after the first of the year. I'm, you know, fingers crossed, very optimistic about those.
Okay.
And we do have a white collar scam kind of problem that we're dealing with that is across the world.
What is it?
Well, there's a lot of them. I mean,
What's a big one that's hitting us right now?
So a big one, even locally, and I just had a friend of mine, her daughter got wrapped up into this, where you'll receive a phone call from somebody saying, "Hey, this is Captain Mike Balken of the Ocala Police Department. I've got a warrant for your arrest, and you know you're going to be ordered to serve so many days in jail. However, you can pay a purge fee to get out of this warrant. You got to do it in either digital currency or these green dot cards." And people are falling for it because, you know, they're ghosting a phone number from a police department, so it looks real. They're using my name. So yeah, they Google Mike Balken. Oh, yeah, he works for the police department. And let's face it, we have a lot of older folks in our community that aren't really savvy to the ways of the internet and how easy it is to do that sort of thing. And they're taken advantage of. So, you know, for those listeners out there, I am never going to call you and tell you got a warrant. I'm showing up at your door and putting you in handcuffs. So,
is anybody ever calling? It's like they're showing up.
They're just going to show up. So if you get a call like that, and that really, let's face it, goes for your cable company, your electric company, Ocala Electric. We don't call you until, you know, you're going to get something in the mail, or the cops are going to show up at your door. So, but we've had a big spike in those cases where, you know, they're ghosting these phone numbers, and it looks very real to the person that's maybe not savvy with the internet and can understand how these scams work. And this was a woman that had the police chief's phone number in her phone and failed to call me until it was too late. So, and lost a good deal of money. So that's probably, you know, we're having to really review how we're allocating resources, where I used to have so many detectives assigned to, say, burglary crimes. We're kind of stealing those detectives and moving them into white collar crime. Because it's so pervasive, not only in our community, but, you know, the person that's doing this is likely in Nigeria. So it's a big problem.
What are some of those things people need to be really careful for over the holidays and into the new year?
Yeah. So, you know, historically, and we've been very lucky the past few years, but historically we stand up Operation Safe Shop every year, where you have not only uniformed officers in black and white cars, but also plainclothes detectives running around in unmarked cars, conducting Operation Safe Shop, which is really them going around patrolling all the big shopping areas and things like that. What I can certainly tell people is, you know, one of the biggest issues for us that we deal with, and it's extremely manpower intensive, it costs us a lot of time, money, and energy, is people just failing to lock their car doors, right? So there's a scam out there. We call it felony lane, right? What somebody's going to do is sit out at say a park, a gym. They're going to watch someone like you, typically a woman, get out of her car without her purse, right? And walk into a gym or at a park where they know you're going to be for, at least 30 minutes to an hour working out. They know your purse is in the car. They know they didn't see you lock it in the trunk, and they're going to go up there and pop your window or just open an unlocked car, unfortunately, in a lot of situations. And they're going to take your purse within seconds, right? Typically, they're back in South Florida, in Miami, the greater Miami area, and they've burned up your your checks, your debit cards, your credit cards before you ever even come out. Half the time they're used at Walmart's leaving the city. So it's so preventable, right? By either locking your purse in your car or not, or, you know, taking it with you inside, putting it in a locker. But that's a huge problem for us. And it's unfortunately difficult to police because, again, by the time you come out of the gym and you realize, hey, somebody took my purse, they're already in Gainesville and did, another 20 up there and are now southbound on the interstate heading back to Miami. So that's probably the biggest thing that we're dealing with. Not necessarily a scam, but
if they put it in the back in the trunk or something, can they still pop those things just as easy?
It depends. If you got a trunk lock button in your car, some of the new cars that won't work without the key fob.
Right.
I would say take your purse with you, put it in the locker.
Oh, those are easier.
Well, you can be. Yeah.
Oh, wow,
yeah. I mean, we would rather you see you take your purse and secure it indoors because these people are not going to come inside and be on camera doing, trying to get into your locker. So, and the vast majority are men anyway, so they're not going to be in there. But that's probably the biggest issue that we have is credit card theft through auto burglaries. Yeah.
You guys seeing a lot of packages being stolen off people's front porches, or you guys that been nixed a little bit this year?
Yeah, the old porch pirate gig is I don't want to say it's a thing of the past. We had a problem with that in bygone. Well, I don't want to say it doesn't happen here. It certainly does. But quite frankly, with the advent of the ring cams and all the surveillance video,
it's slowed down
a lot. And when they do it, typically we're on them pretty good.
Good.
We're on that.
It's amazing how technology has helped really bring more safety to our homes and just all the way around.
That and facial recognition, things like that. The days of the fuzzy bank surveillance video, it looks like Bigfoot in the picture.
Right.
Those days are over. Most businesses, even down to your ring cam on your doorbell, are pretty high resolution pictures that we can get, and even with your face covered. I think a prime example was this assassination up in New York City of the CEO, right? That clearly the police department was on top of things with their surveillance capabilities, and I would imagine they had that guy identified within the first 12 hours. Maybe didn't release that, but
they got the right guy.
Are you kidding? I don't think he's getting out anytime soon. I'll say that. Right? He's innocent until
you can't mess that up, right?
I don't think you can have any better evidence than what they've got based on what they've heard, what I've heard. But no, to your point, the technology out there has been instrumental in allowing us to be much more successful and really focusing on that small 5% of our society that just wants to take advantage of the other 95.
Sure. Last year, a big scam with IRS calling. And so has that slowed down this year? Has that been nixed?
Yeah, I haven't heard of any of those cases yet. Now, keep in mind, tax season's rolling around right soon. That certainly hasn't been an issue for us in the past, since tax season last year. The bottom line is, look, folks, if it's not a scam right now, it will be tomorrow. Criminals, and I really think that's led to a drop in violent crime, right? There's no reason to walk into a bank with a mask and a gun when you can take advantage of a 90-year-old woman living on top of the world because she just, might not be familiar with the scams that are out there and how easy it is for her to get taken advantage of. So, but that's, if it's too good to be true, it certainly probably is. And be very careful who you're talking to and communicating with online and over the phone.
Yeah, our clients are in retirement or about to retire, and they're between 50, but really 55 to 78 years old. And they'll call us and they'll say, hey, Charisse, is this a scam? Or what do you think about this? I'm like, total scam. Yep. That would never happen. So they're always checking in. So I know they're going to love this show because you just never know. There's a hot new scam. It seems like every other week now.
You can't keep up with them.
Even coming towards us, I'm like, no, I'll send it to my director of operations. I'm like, is this a scam? I'll get text. So she's like, total scam, Charisse. And so she's on it.
I think another big problem, and I can bring this up because it hit close to home with a friend of mine who somebody infiltrated his email. It actually took over his whole computer. It slaved his computer is what they call it, and was sending emails back and forth, basically from his attorney to him, dealing with some pretty big financial situations, and he lost $50,000. Was it really was he acting two parts? No. He somebody just got in his email, and that bad player was acting both. He was sending emails to the owner of the email and to his attorney back and forth, invoices and things like that, and ultimately got him for $50,000. Now, luckily, because of the dollar amount, that money was secured and on hold, and they were able to recover that through a fraud alert. But,
so pick up the phone whenever you're paying bills or going back and forth. I've heard of one recently too. Pick up the phone and verify they are who they are, and just make sure. So go old school on these scams before you pay a bill.
Yeah, and don't get the number from them.
Yes.
Look it up independently and then call them. And, we've had scams through the Ocala electric utility. So the city electric department, somebody will call you and say, hey, we're about to turn your electric off as City of Ocala, and it'll look like a real number unless you pay this within, so many hours. And it's become a real educational push for us, trying to get people to understand, look, it just doesn't work that way. And nothing's preventing you from picking up and calling the City of Ocala and saying, hey, what's going on? So,
you guys.
Yeah. So we try to do a good job of educating folks either through social media or in-person meetings. You've heard me talk before about some of that stuff.
Yeah. On the website, can they go to look at updated scams? You guys publish anything?
We do. If they follow us, certainly on Facebook is probably where we have over 100,000 followers. So we try to be really heavy there. And we do scam alerts all the time. So
great.
Like us, follow us. I
need to pay attention more.
Well, hey.
I'm there, but I never get on there. But I need to check it probably once a week.
Yeah. If we have an emerging trend of scams coming out, we're going to alert the community to what we're dealing with. And I know the sheriff's office does that just as well as we do.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing all that. So, and there's so much more. So if you guys have any questions or something smells funny, looks funny, sounds funny, sniff it out and make some phone calls. It's the best strategy. That's what I do.
Absolutely.
So I want to talk about one other thing because it's a pretty bodacious, amazing thing that has been put together. The community policing program. Can you tell everyone about this?
Yeah, so we've been practicing as an organization community policing for as long as I've been there, right? 31 years almost. And in a nutshell, if somebody's, well, what is community policing? Community policing really is just the definition is really, it's a partnership. It's a partnership between a law enforcement agency and the community that they serve in trying to better the quality of life for everybody. So we've always done that to a certain level. With Mayor Marciano coming on board, he's pushed that to a whole nother level. So, the mayor really wanted to push out a program. He wanted to identify a struggling neighborhood in the city of Ocala that really drives some of our violent crime numbers, especially with youth, and get in there and really be very proactive in how we're addressing that to try to get buy-in from the residents that are actually living in the community. Again, we started this conversation with the idea that we can't successfully police a community without their support and cooperation. So we identified a key neighborhood that was really suffering from a lot of violent crime, a lot of kids not going to school, a lot of domestic violence, drug issues, and things like that. And we use that as kind of a pilot program, right? And we partnered one of our police officers with a gentleman in the community that really had a heart for getting out there and trying to make some inroads with the folks that live out there in this community, and it really ranged from everything from having a cookout to get people involved in what we were trying to do to handing out books, again, literacy rates as it relate to incarceration rates, and then partnering with the apartment complex management themselves to improve things like the entryway gate, right, to keep those people that we don't want in there, the non-residents, from going in there and victimizing the residents. Improving the camera system so we could better capture bad guys and bad folks, players that were in there doing bad things. But then things like career development, teaching those soft skills for doing an interview. We wanted to be involved in all of the. Maybe we weren't taking on all of those facets, but if we could just partner with the right people in the community, we thought, what better way to really get this neighborhood off the ground and change the long-term trajectory of a lot of the residents there, right? It should not be a goal of someone living in the projects, right? A Section 8 housing project to live there for 20 years.
Right.
The goal should be, hey, you're down on your luck, but there's a community that supports you. It's certainly starting with the police department, that we support you in trying to get you on your feet and onto a better life, right? And it's clear that it's working because we're getting a lot of calls on, hey, there's somebody doing this, or hey, I recorded this guy, he hit his wife or whatever. A lot more cooperation from the people that are actually out there that understand that, okay, the police department does care. It's not just lip service. They're not going to do this hit and run and leave, and then I got to deal with these people, right? They're here for the long term. And I think we've certainly shown that. We've shown that commitment with not only our officer, but and not just the one officer. Every patrol officer that works that area knows that is a very valuable space for me. and whatever inroads that they can make, whatever work they can do to make the safety of our citizens the forefront of what they do in the course of their shift, they need to be doing it. And so far, it's paid off dividends. The idea is to really evaluate that again after the first of the year. Let's look at the data, the numbers, and see, okay, if this was as successful as we believe it is or was, how do we blow this? How do we build this, right? And then go off to the next neighborhood without leaving them to fend for themselves. So it's a big lift, but I think it's going to be a huge change in how we police.
Right. And the correlation will show the drop of problems and less calls.
That's the goal, right?
And you're like kind of building small families, which is amazing.
It's a big deal for a police department. I couldn't be more proud.
This is unusual.
I wouldn't say we're the only ones doing it, but I will say that we're probably doing it better than a lot. And the buy-in that we have from our staff is really more than what I could ever have asked for. So very happy.
Yeah. What a great way to nurture the community and let them know that we're here. It's not just we're going to get you. We're going to try to help you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
We want you running towards us, not away from us.
Yeah, so that's the policing program. Fantastic. Well, I can't wait to hear more about it next year to see kind of what it has come from it.
Sure.
So we talk about retirement planning here. And so you've given us a lot of great tips and all the wonderful things that you're doing in our community. And you look like you should be in high school, but you have 20-year-old children. So what does life after the department look like for you and when?
I get asked that a lot. I've been there for almost 31 years and I can tell you this, I have no plans on leaving and putting on another department's uniform. Ocala's home to me. I love this agency. I love the people that work with us as a team, and I'm not going to leave them to go somewhere else. I'm just not going to do that. The exit strategy is kind of unknown. I think I'm going to, when I feel like I'm either not as relevant anymore and need to step out of the way for somebody else to take over, I need to understand when that is and go when that time comes. I'm not there yet. Listen, I get up early. I get to work early every day. I stay late, much to my wife's dismay, just about every day. It's a very busy schedule, not just Monday through Friday, not just day shift, but the weekends, different events, doing different things. I still love it. I love it. I feel like I'm making a difference in my community. And when I lose that feeling, hopefully I never do, but when that time comes, that'll be when I check out and go move to the beach or something. Who knows? So I'll get back into surfing more and go live my best life over there.
That's right. Somebody said you love the ocean and diving.
I do. Yeah, I say I do a lot. I used to do a lot more diving out in the ocean than I do now, but I'm working to get back to that. Surfing's kind of been the big thing the last few years.
So healthy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a full body workout. I can tell you that. I was lucky enough to go surf Central America this past year. Costa Rica, had a blast down there, and would love to do more of that. But the schedule keeps me pretty busy, so I get away when I can, and I'm happy either way. But anytime I can get on the water, I'm a happy guy.
We're going to see him on a surf magazine in 20 years, you guys.
Yeah, good luck, 20 years.
Well, you have lots of great programs, and I just want to end with this. Make me accountable. I am dying to do a ride-along with you guys. Would that be appropriate? Of
course.
Because anybody can do a ride-along, right?
I encourage any citizen out there that wants to learn more about their law enforcement agencies to come do a ride-along. I tell my cops, look, and it's a little weird having somebody in your car, right, riding around. It kind of takes you out of your normal element. But
and they're like, no more ride-alongs.
But here's what I tell my staff: they're not your cars. They belong to the citizens, right?
Right.
We work for the citizens. If there's somebody out there that wants to do a ride along, reach out. We'll get you in a patrol car. You're not going to do it a bunch of times because we got limited space. But
sure.
Come out for a few hours on a Friday, Saturday night, and see what some things that you probably don't think even happen here.
A Friday, Saturday night. That's a busy one too.
It's hopping, yeah. It can. I'm not proud of that, but it gets busy on the weekends, and
sure.
You'll probably get some excitement and get to meet one of your law enforcement. They're public servants. Come get to know us. Yeah, we'd love to have you.
They're such good dudes too. I'm going to tell you, I've met so many of them, and they're amazing. And so, they like cookies and cakes too. So drop them by OPD 441.
They like salads.
Health and wellness. We'll talk about that next year.
There you go. Right.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. What an honor. So many great things happening, and you're a blessing in disguise. And we do hope you hang in a little bit longer before retirement.
You're too kind. Thanks for having me.
You are so welcome.
Thanks for listening to the Retirement Coffee Talk podcast. If you have questions or would like to begin the process of building a tailored retirement plan, call Zinnia Wealth at 833-368-3680 or find us online at zinniawealth.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, a registered investment advisor. The firm only conducts business in states where it is properly registered or is excluded from registration requirements. Registration is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. Insurance products are offered through Zinnia Wealth Management, LLC, Florida license L078655, and Charisse Rivers, Florida license P037744. Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, and Zinnia Wealth Management, LLC are affiliated entities. The information presented is believed to be current. It should not be viewed as personalized investment advice. All expressions of opinion reflect the judgment of the presenter on the date of the podcast and are subject to change. The information presented is not an offer to buy or sell or a solicitation of any offer to buy or sell any of the securities discussed. You should consult with a professional advisor before implementing any of the strategies discussed. Any legal or tax information provided in this podcast is general in nature. Always consult an attorney or tax professional regarding your specific legal or tax situation. Any client experience discussed on this show are unique to that client. Annuity and life insurance guarantees are subject to the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. If you withdraw money from or surrender your contract within a certain time after investing, the insurance company may assess a surrender charge. Withdrawals may be subject to tax penalties and income taxes. Persons selling annuities or other insurance products receive compensation for these transactions. These commissions are separate and distinct from fees charged for advisory services. Insurance products also contain additional fees and expenses. Social Security rules and regulations are subject to change at any time. Always consult with your local Social Security office before acting upon any information provided herein. References to specific investments should not be construed as being past specific recommendations. The returns for various indices discussed in this podcast do not represent the performance of the firm or any of its advisory clients. Returns do not reflect the impact that advisory fees will have on an investment. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. All investment strategies have potential for profit or loss. Different types of investments involve higher and lower levels of risk. There is no guarantee that a specific investment strategy will be suitable or profitable for an investor's portfolio. Historical performance returns for investment indexes and or categories usually do not deduct transaction and or custodial charges or advisory fees, which would decrease historical performance results. There are no guarantees that a portfolio will match or outperform a specific benchmark. Investments in fixed income products are subject to liquidity risk, market risk, index rate risk, credit risk, inflation risk, purchasing power risk, and taxation risk. Because bond prices fluctuate continually, their yields change constantly.